Hello everybody, this is Gregory with 5-Minute Catholic Apologetics and Living, where 5 minutes of your time may get you to the divine. Today we're going to talk about how the Italian bishops have announced that they are not going to throw out or disallow an Italian from entering the seminary if they have homosexual tendencies, and how this was approved by the Vatican. Now, before we begin, let's start with a prayer. Nome Patris et Filii et Spiritui Sancti. Amen. Gloria Patri et Filio et Spiritui Sancto. Secutor in principio, et nunc et semper, et saecula saeculorum. Amen. I'm here at my tea shop. If you guys ever want to buy loose leaf tea, go check out the link in the episode notes, or if you're in Texas, come visit me. So every country has their collection of bishops. Here we have the USCCB that meets twice a year over, typically in Baltimore. Well, the Italian ones met a few months ago, and they made an announcement which was approved by the Vatican. Now, you have to think anything that's approved in the Vatican Curia, there's a lot of bureaucracy over there, but you got to think that this was approved by Francis, or at least allowed by Francis on some level. But the announcement was that they would not allow a man who has homosexual tendencies but makes a vow to be celibate as a way to not allow them in the seminary. So in other words, if you are a homosexual who intends to be celibate and you're going through the application process of entering a seminary in Italy, your application will not be thrown out simply because you are a homosexual. Now, I think the church has had this difficult fine line that they have to walk when it comes to homosexuality, because you have to love the sinner and hate the sin. And I think that they also have to look at the optic. And I think there's the inside Catholic circles, like Inside Baseball, that always show worldview, and the outside Catholic circle. In the outside Catholic circle, in other words, people who are not Catholic or just low information Catholics, when they think of the sex abuse crisis that really blew up, it's been going on for decades, but really blew up about 25 years ago, they don't understand what was really behind it. And those that are in the know, the cognoscenti literally, those who are in the know, understand that the sex abuse crisis was a homosexual problem. And this goes back, way back into the 40s and 50s, but certainly in the 60s, a lot of homosexuals infiltrated the clergy and infiltrated the seminaries. And from there, it was a mess, because you can read just a variety of studies that show that the vast majority of inappropriate behavior that was done from the clergy to minors in particular were homosexual in nature, not heterosexual. In the old days, it was concubinage, and of course these are both wrong, but in the old days it was like the priest messing around with the 18-year-old girl or whatever, or having essentially a female lover that would live with them in the rectory. But the most recent crisis was a homosexual one. And a lot of people don't know that. So there are all these jokes about, the priest, he's a molester. They just don't know. And they just assume that the problem is with celibacy, the discipline of celibacy. And no, the problem was that we had an infiltration. They call it the pink mafia, the infiltration of the seminaries for the last 40 years. And we have done a good job of clearing them out. And as you see them cleared out, and I should say, with the infiltration of the pink mafia, so to speak, came heterodox thinkings that they were trying to push into Catholic belief. And so as you've seen the seminaries being cleaned out the last few decades, and especially in the last 10 years, we have less homosexuals, active homosexuals, latent homosexuals, and therefore also less heterodox thinking. So the majority of priests coming out of the clergy, at least in America, are heterosexual in nature, but also orthodox in their theology. The two definitely go together many times.
So as you can see, I moved. This is the perils of recording videos at a tea cafe where customers can come in, and they can come in all day. So now I have to record this the morning after that first half of the video. So do I think this is a good idea? No, I don't. Do I think the Italian bishops are doing partly because they have a clergy vocation problem? Probably. But we talked about it here before. In America, if you look at the dioceses that are the most traditional, they have the most vocations. So one way to clear up the clergy crisis in terms of vocation is not to bow to secular kind of pressures, which we need married priests, or we need to allow homosexuals who say they're going to be celibate once they become priests to allow them in. I don't think so. I think what you need to do is, clean up your liturgies, clean up your kind of modernist tendencies that you have in Italy, and go trad. I mentioned when I was in Venice, I was at Santa Maria Ferrari, which is the second largest church in Venice. How I went to daily mass there. I'll see if I remember to put the banner up here. And I knelt for the Eucharist. First of all, I went to daily mass and there was maybe 7 people. And I knelt for the Eucharist, and the priest said something in Italian. He's like, no, I don't know what, I have no idea what he was saying, but obviously he was telling me to get up, and it was like a showdown. It was like a 15-second showdown. And I was just, and then he was like, and he gave it to me, but he was not happy. So look, could it be for that? I would tell you the better solution is become more traditional. You'll get vocations. Italy's in a tough place. We think it's kind of like the home of Catholicism, which in some levels it is, but the Republic of Italy, which was created in the 1870s, has always been very anti-clerical. And the country of Italy, despite its kind of reputation as being very Catholic, is not that Catholic. And we know that there's certainly a demographic winter that's going on in Western Europe because of all the contracepting and aborting of babies. And there's a lot of Italians, just like a lot of Europeans in general, that have turned their back on Catholic teaching. So you have a smaller percentage of vocations that you can get from Italy, and then you throw in kind of the modernist seminaries. So it's harder. Now the other issue I think is, look, let's be real. If you put a heterosexual priest in a, for lack of a better word, hotel boarding school with a bunch of 20-year-old beautiful nuns, it's a lot of temptation. It's a lot of temptation. And the male priest, but yeah, I could be celibate. I could be chaste. It's a lot of temptation. So I mean, this is the kind of the issue with homosexuals in the seminary, is that even if you give them the benefit of the doubt that they can be celibate in the seminary, much less as a priest, but let's just say in the seminary, you are in a hotbed of temptation because you are, or at least have homosexual attraction, and you're surrounded by men who also might have homosexual attraction. So I think that just increases the chances of sin and scandal, both of which are a sin. Scandal is a sin. And then even if the priest does say, I will be celibate once I am a priest, what guarantee that you have? Now you could argue, well, what guarantee does a heterosexual priest have when he says he's going to be celibate? I would tell you, statistically, there is a better chance that the heterosexual priest will be celibate once he's a priest for the whatever 30 X amount of years he's going to be a priest than a homosexual tendency, homosexual attraction priest would in general. So I would say, if you look at the studies. And so, look, I just think this is a bad idea. Do I think this is going to catch on in America? As much as the USCCB, and there's some super liberal proponents like Cardinal Supich in Chicago, and McElroy, and these guys are pretty liberal. I don't foresee it happening in the USCCB, where they're going to say, yeah, let's let homosexuals in there, because they know, even the liberals, and even those who've covered it up, and heaven help those who've tried to cover it up for all these decades, they know that the sex abuse scandal was a homosexual scandal. And even Francis knows this. So if you don't know, Francis, a few months ago, was caught saying a gay slur, and he was lamenting. And I know the trads, especially the mad rat trads, don't like Francis. And they think he's just super liberal and whatever. New World Order had lackey, St. Colin lackey. But even he was on record saying that there were too many homosexuals in the clergy, and he used a gay slur. So as liberal as you want to call him in certain issues, he does not want more homosexuals in the seminaries. But at the same time, he or somebody in the Curia, somebody in the Vatican hierarchy gave this approval to the Italian bishops. But I think in general, it's a bad idea. I think the better route is clean up your seminaries, clean up your churches to make them more of a beacon for young men who want to be priests, who might have a vocation. Yes, get rid of female altar servers, because that is a hindrance. We have an episode here on that. And I think that is the better approach. And this is not to cast aspersions on anyone with homosexual tendencies. It's not. It's just a temptation and a potential for scandal that honestly the Catholic Church cannot afford right now. Guys, post in the comments. I'd love to hear from you if you agree or disagree with what the Italian bishops agreed on. Until next time, take care. God bless and pray.